Okay, so I think respect everybody's time. We'll get started here, and I'll just start with we'll start with our introductions, and then get right into our panel discussion with our panelists. I'll let them introduce themselves. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. Again, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Esteban Monja. I'm the work-based learning specialist here for the Grossmont Union High School District. My role is to kind of connect our teachers and our students with local business partners to learn about careers in our region. And provide them with work experiences, whether it be job shadowing, mentoring, coming to a classroom and talking about careers. And one of the things that we've highlighted, one of the positive things that have come out of our COVID and distance learning is the ability to put on these webinars where we can have people from all over learn about careers in various sectors. So a little bit of overview of our school district. In our district, we have various CTE pathways, and they represent what California has considered high priority sectors. And these sectors are agriculture. The sectors we provide pathways in is agriculture, arts, media, and entertainment, and in that we separate those from digital arts and multimedia, building and constructions, education, engineering, and marketing, as well as fashion and cosmetology, health, hospitality, information and communication technology, manufacturing, and transportation. Today's webinar is going to kind of hit on what we call the STEM fields, and there's a lot of overlap in various pathways in the STEM fields and clean energy. And so today, hopefully, we'll get a better, hopefully you'll get a better idea of where those crossovers are. That's it for my introduction. I want to go ahead and get started with having our panelists introduce themselves. If you have questions, we will have a Q&A at the end, but please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And as we roll along, we'll be able to get those questions for you guys answered. First, we'll start off with Lindsey Singleton.
Hi, I'm Lindsey Singleton. I'm an engineering design manager at Otter products. We're best known for our cell phone cases. OtterBox and LifeProof are both brands underneath our business. I'm a founding member of our Sustainability Council here. We've done a lot of work in the past few years to be more sustainable in the way that we produce and manufacture and market our products. And then I'm also an active member of the Society of Women Engineers. I am an example of somebody that has made pretty significant career moves through both industry and through roles. If you're familiar, Sclar-Manager and Veregy are both oil service companies, and so I have made pretty significant shifts in my priorities throughout my career, and it's never too late to make changes. As you know better, do better. I've also held roles throughout operations. I was a field engineer. I spent quite a bit of time in supply chain as a sourcing specialist, a procurement manager, a cost engineer, and I'm most recently I've moved into design engineering, where I'm a manager on that team. And then my background is that I went to the University of Oklahoma. I have a bachelor's of science in industrial engineering, which actually no longer exists. Now it's industrial and systems engineering. And then I have a master's of business administration.
Thank you, Lindsey. And next, we're going to go to Claire Garcia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Claire Garcia. I'm one of the grant team leads here at Lion Electric, and Lion is a medium and heavy duty electric vehicle manufacturer. The company is actually based in Quebec in Canada, but we have offices all over the US and Canada, and we're going to start manufacturing in the US too pretty soon here. My job on the day-to-day basis has to do with like a lot of reading and writing. So even though I'm involved in an industry that's very technology heavy, I'm actually doing something a little bit different, which is a lot of like writing grants, proposals, and we help a lot of fleets secure grant funding so they can deploy some electric heavy duty vehicles, like for example, the bus on the slide here, which is a completely electric school bus. So we help a lot of school districts secure grant funding so they can deploy these vehicles because they're a little more expensive than diesel vehicles. So kind of how I got here was I was writing grants previously with a nonprofit before I joined Lion. And at that time, I was also exposed to electric vehicles and clean air and, you know, basically the fight for everybody in this country, kind of regardless of where they live, to have clean air and actually live in a place where there's no smog and no diesel pollution. And that really spoke to me and I was really interested in it. So when I joined Lion, I get to still basically work for that cause, but I'm still writing grants, which is something I love to do. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Amanda, next.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm an energy engineer at Veregy. We're based in Irvine, California, and I work as an energy consultant and energy engineer on various different projects, but mostly focused on energy efficiency in the building sector. So a lot of my projects involved going into existing building, collecting data, and then coming up with potential strategies to reduce their energy usage, and then taking all the data, crunching some numbers, and then calculating the potential savings from if they implement those measures, and then presenting that back to the client. Most of our clients are universities, cities, counties, school districts, and other public entities. And my educational background, I got a BS in environmental science from UCLA, and then later I got my MS in civil and environmental engineering with a focus on energy from Stanford.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
And next we have Ryan.
Hey everybody, my name is Ryan Sklar. I work at a company called Engie Impact, which is most known for being a utility company in France, but I actually work for a consultancy branch of Engie Impact, which is focused on electric vehicle consultancy work that we provide mostly in North America, but also other parts of the Americas in Latin America. I'm originally from California. I'm a product of the California public school system. Didn't go to a Grossmont school, but I did go to UC San Diego, so I'm familiar with San Diego quite well. I actually live now in DC, but have a lot of California routes. My kind of core interest has always been in transportation, and so that's taken me originally through some transportation engineering career fields, and then kind of jumping into the electrification of transportation a few years back. First at an NGO focused on helping cities and countries in the global south to electrify public transit, and now at Engie Impact doing similar work, but focusing with a larger variety of clients, mostly in the United States.
Thank you, Ryan. And Joe was having little sound issues. Is you with us now?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Nice. So I missed everybody else's intro, so I'm just going to ad hoc here. My name is Joe. I'm currently a project manager at San Diego Gas and Electric in their Clean Transportation Project Management Office. It's a new business unit that was stood up 6 years ago. Was the first employee hired to implement their very first pilot program to electrify 300 sites, 3,000 charging stations here in San Diego. I've been doing it ever since. Before that, I was a Marine. I got out of the Marines and went to work at the Department of the Navy, and finally made it here at San Diego Gas and Electric. Throughout my career, I've pretty much focused on program and project management, the Lean Six Sigma. I worked a little bit in supply chain and logistics and inventory management. And I got my degree while I was out in Washington, D.C. at the University of Potomac in government contract management. And then what really helped me get this job here at SDG&E was the project management professional certification.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Oops. So that is the intro to our panelists. I have a series of questions I'll be asking you guys, and then we'll just kind of answer. You can see on the screen, we have Ryan on one side, and we're working our way over to Amanda, and then we'll probably just come back the other way as you guys answer the questions. Some of you already hit on the first questions in your introductions, but maybe if you want to elaborate a little bit more. A lot of our students don't always see, they always see their careers as a very linear process, meaning they think they come out of high school, go to college, and then go directly into a career. And I think all of us can attest to all of our careers probably having much different routes as far as circling around and different, I call them different stops, and getting to where we are today. So if you want to kind of briefly touch on that, we'll start with Ryan. If you want to give us a little bit kind of the direction or the map in which your career took.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So as I mentioned in my intro, I've always kind of had this core interest in transportation. And the reason for that was, in going back to high school, I was starting to get really interested in environmental topics. And I remember having conversations with people about, okay, how can we actually do something to help the environment? What's the most impactful way to do that? And transportation kind of kept coming up as a really good way to do that. And so I got into transportation, and that was kind of my intro there. But even within transportation, there was a lot of meandering that happened within my career. Originally, I was looking at working at a transportation engineering firm, and I did that for a few years. Decided that wasn't exactly where I wanted to focus. I also worked more on kind of the academic side, worked for an academic journal, and then kind of through that found an opportunity to jump into electrification. It was really just an opportunity that provided itself. So I was interested in the topic, but it was kind of right place, right time. And so that's kind of how I found myself in the electric vehicle consulting career path. There is, even if you did want to do this as somebody who's in high school right now, there's really no defined specific way to get into it. I work hand in hand with people that have a variety of different majors, different backgrounds, but the one thing that kind of connects us all is that we're just interested in the topic. So, interest, I think, is really what got me where I am, as much as anything else that I've done in terms of work experience or career choices in academia.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Claire, you want to give us your path?
Yeah, so I kind of want to reiterate what Ryan was saying, which is like there's no one path. I think experienced a little bit of a roundabout way to get here in my position as well today. So I did, immediately go to college after high school. I did do that like 4 years. I got a bachelor's in political science, actually, which I know it might not sound like super related to what I'm doing, because at the time I actually didn't know exactly what I wanted to do for my career, and I was interested in political science. And so after that, I wasn't 100% sure what I actually wanted to do. And I got the internship initially with the nonprofit that was focused on clean air and lung health. And that turned into, a full-time job. And that's when I really found out that I was really interested in grants. And I really had a lot of fun, doing this job. And then when I found Lion, I was like, this is exactly the kind of job what I want to do on a day-to-day basis. And I was just really fortunate to get this position because I've been with them for a little over 3 years now. So I think, my pathway maybe wasn't super traditional because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't, major in like grant writing or anything like that. But I think the, thing that I could say is like, if you find something you really like, even though you weren't expecting it, it's good to just be open to those opportunities because you might find something that you really enjoy doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. It sounds like you might be a little bit far away from the mic. You kind of dropped a little bit there, but that's okay. And we'll go with Lindsey.
I read recently that instead of considering careers a career ladder, you should call them a career lattice. And I just really like that mindset. That's certainly how I think I've treated my career, is wherever there's a new opportunity, something different to learn. I actually tend to get bored every 3 or 4 years, and to expect promotion that quickly lots of times is not reasonable. And so I've made a lot of lateral moves in my career, between industries, between roles, between areas of the company. And it's amazing the amount of knowledge you can take from two seemingly completely unrelated things and apply them from one to the other. So certainly wherever you're learning, even if it seems completely unrelated, if you're working in fast food or as a lifeguard or whatever, you'll be surprised the amount of skills you'll take from that into an office job or something that you wouldn't expect. So for me personally, I had mentioned I worked in the field in operations in Africa for a while, and then I came back to a manufacturing center to essentially build the products that we were running in the field. Spent some time in manufacturing before I was voluntold into supply chain, and ended up spending a significant amount of my career there just based on happenstance, essentially. I also, as I got older and more stable in just my life in general, I had the privilege of being able to make compromises in pay and things like that to follow passions a little bit more. And so certainly that's changed my career paths at different periods in my career too, where I was able to make really intentional decisions to compromise on different aspects of my life to make different career moves. So yeah, always take the opportunities. There's always something to learn, new and different.
Yeah, I used to tell students in my classes, I was like, you'll be surprised at things that you'll learn and you'll apply in high school and later in life. I'll never forget my typing class in high school. It's probably the one class I've benefited the most from in normal jobs, because now I can type really efficiently, which in grad school, that was a huge plus, typing papers until 2 a.m. Thank you. And Joe, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's a lot of common personalities on here. We have a similar path, so to say, or non-path that we took to get where we are. I don't know about you guys, if you know where you're going next, just enjoying the ride or what I'm doing right now. But I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school, no college. I was basically a warehouseman. You just pull parts from a drawer, bag them up, throw them in a truck and deliver them. Got bored, right? So I got curious and, wanted to know what my boss does and what his boss does. And, that shows curiosity and interest. And then people will take you under their wing and kind of mentor you, and you can move up and get promoted a little bit faster. We were using a doctrine from we went to the Gulf, when we went to Iraq. We're using doctrine from the Gulf War, almost 20 years old, and it wasn't really working. So I had to break the rules in order to be successful. And when I got back, they asked me how I did it, and then they introduced me to this concept of Lean Six Sigma, which is really hot kind of certification you could have back then. And so once I achieved that certification, it took 3 years. I left the Marine Corps and went to work for the Department of the Navy as a civilian, got into foreign military sales. Didn't really like what I was doing there politically. So I switched over to program and project management and got into some really cool research design technology, RDT&E projects like railguns, lasers on ships, stuff like that. Did that for 7 years, got my degree during that time, because the hardest thing the government has to do is award and manage contracts. So I want to know more about that. There's no degree programs out there. So I linked up with a university that allowed me to work with the university, academia, and the workplace to design a degree program, which was pretty cool too. And then once I finished that, I moved out here to San Diego, California, and got this job at SDG&E. And that's how I got to where I am today.
Nice, thank you. Amanda?
Yeah, so I think my pathway kind of started like really broad with all majors until I like kind of found what I liked and narrowed it down to get to where I am today. So my interest in like sustainability and the environmental field really started in high school when I took my first environmental science class. So then when I got to my undergraduate degree, I wanted to focus on environmental science. So I got my BS in that subject. And then right out of college, I got my first job working with local governments on their environmental programs. So it was a wide range of different programs like energy, some community outreach, some climate action planning. And through all that work, I realized I really was interested in the energy field, and I was always more drawn to the technical engineering side of things. So that's why I went back to school for my master's in environmental engineering with a focus on energy. And then after that is when I got my current job as an energy engineer at Veregy, and I've been here like almost 3 years now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing that. I know it's always interesting when we look back and reflect on kind of how we got to where we are. Just to kind of switch gears a little bit, because we have some students here, and we're also going to be sharing this recording with our STEM and our CTE pathway students as well. So they'll be watching this. But what would you say would be the quickest way for somebody to get involved within, whether it be the clean energy field or a STEM related field? So I'm thinking about somebody who's currently in high school, maybe going to finish high school this year. What would you recommend maybe to get involved or to see if that particular career is something they'd be interested in? We'll go ahead and start with Amanda this time and work our way back to Ryan.
Sure. I think for me personally, what was really valuable was internships. I think internships is a great way to not only like learn a lot on the job, but also gain good work experience. And then it also allowed me to do a lot of networking. So while I was doing my internships, I was able to meet different people, kind of ask them about their jobs, even go outside my own team and ask people in the other teams in the company about different jobs to learn more about what's out there, because I think starting out, you don't really know exactly all the different jobs available. So I think internships was a really big help for me in not only gaining work experience, but networking also.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of the things we struggled with during distance learning is those internships availability. A lot of facilities were closed down or virtually only. But we're slowly getting back to it. I'm getting some outreach and looks to hopefully expand on some of that as we're slowly getting back to normal, our new normal, I should say. Thank you. And Joe, what would you say?
Well, the most direct path, I think, to get to where I'm at today would be to go to college and get a degree, but really a degree in anything, like you guys said. I mean, I just hired an engineer with a degree in marine biology, right? So go to college, get a degree. I think Amanda mentioned internships, right? And that's really the best advice I can give you right now.
And just kind of reflecting back, Joe, and you mentioned obviously your service, your military service. What maybe, and we'll get to skills here in just a minute, but your experience in the military, did that slowly spark your interest in kind of where you're at today? Or was it based on your experience through the role and the job you had in the military?
It was like accumulated experience provided me the direction to take the next step, right? Somebody mentioned, you get in a job, you do it for 2 to 3 years, and you start looking for something new, different, and more entertaining, something else to learn, right? So it's always being curious, always learning, always looking for what's next, or what can I get involved in.
Awesome. We have a motto here with our CTE and in our district in general with our teachers is to have students become lifelong learners, right? And I think it's a really important skill set, like to always, like you said, always want to be curious and continue to want to learn about something. Thank you. And then Lindsey, what would you say is one of the quickest way for somebody to maybe get involved within, let's say, your industry or in general, an industry they're interested in?
Certainly echoing internships are a great mechanism. Going through college and getting to all of that can give you all sorts of an opportunity to sample a lot of different things throughout those years. Within design and product, there's also the opportunity for CAD design work, and that doesn't require a degree, and most of our CAD designers don't have degree work there. It's a skill that can be self-taught, and it's really that experience is what's needed for it. There's also certifications and classes that you can take just on the side that would be probably the quickest and most direct route to it. And we certainly have students come in that are first year or two of college that are just as good at CAD as a lot of our tenured engineers, because it's a skill that you can just learn on the computer on your own without having to go through additional school. Yeah,
and I know I've spoken with one of your counterparts, Peter, and he mentioned that you guys do run, Otter does run an internship program, but it's typically for students within the first year of college. And so thank you for reminding us on that. And Claire, what would you say to a student who maybe is like, I'm really fired up, learn about electric vehicles? Is there an opportunity or something you recommend they can kind of maybe be involved in as they're in school or finishing school, high school, that is?
Definitely, I have to agree that an internship would be super helpful. Like I myself did one, but it had nothing to do with electric vehicles, for example. And another thing I could say is, like, if you're really passionate about it, I think that's huge in this industry, especially because it's still a little bit new. And it's kind of startup-y. A lot of these companies are like tech startup kind of companies. And so if you're really passionate about it and, you're open with that and you're like, this is my passion, this is what I want to do, I think people respond really well to that. In Line, for example, like I know a lot of people here who started recently and didn't really have, a traditional type of background you would think would fit for this type of company, but then they're really amazing at the position. So it's like, it's not really like you have to have a traditional pathway. As long as you're really passionate about it and you're willing to learn and put in the work, I kind of feel like you can go into any position you want to do, especially in an industry like this. And it's so fast paced and it's changing every day. And I think every day there's a new opportunity for someone. So even if you think that, you're not like a classic fit, I think you should just go ahead and try anyway, especially if you're passionate about it, because like the doors will open, I think, more than people realize.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. And what would you say, Ryan? Someone, again, maybe interested in pursuing, learning a little bit more about your field or?
Yeah, well, I think the classic answers have already been well covered, which are, go get a degree and look for an internship. But I think that in addition to that, kind of building a little bit off of what Claire mentioned, when we're hiring, one thing that's really important, especially for somebody in an entry-level position, is that they can demonstrate that they just are really passionate about the topic. And so I think there are some ways to do that that are relatively I guess I would say light touch, certainly compared to, going to college or something, but really can kind of prove that you're interested, and even, prove as a way for you yourself to figure out if you're interested or not. So what are a few examples of these? Well, you could join a professional organization or group. So specific to transportation, I could rattle a few off. There's the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the Young Professionals in Transportation, or even just joining your local bike coalition and maybe using that as a way to network with some of the more kind of professionally focused people that are involved. I think those are all really good ways to just start talking to people that are in this field in kind of a low risk way. You can also look for certificates and for summer programs. This is something that is very kind of available, I would say, at least in my experience, when you're in a university college setting. But even before then, it might be worth just seeing what you might be able to do in the summer, even if it's not an internship, but some sort of quick class or course or some sort of program that you could take just to demonstrate that you're interested in the topic. And even just through your general coursework, I think that it's useful, and again, really, especially for an entry-level position seeker to have maybe some projects that you're really proud of that you did in the class, maybe where you went really above and beyond what was expected in the class because you were excited about the topic, and you have maybe a paper you can show or some research you did. So in a one word, my response would be show how you're interested in the topic, and you can go far with that.
Awesome. And, and I'm glad you brought that up as far as the joining associations or institutes that promote, whether it be, like you mentioned, transportation engineer, the association or the Institute of Transportation Engineers. I know we have some local, women in engineering associations that we've shared with our students. So thank you for bringing that up. I would tell, I used to coordinate a medical pathway program when I was at Granite Hills High School, and a lot of students want to be nurses and doctors. And we'd always say, well, how about stepping into the field of maybe phlebotomy or CNA just to see if working with patients is something you'd want to do. And before you go into the high stakes world of medical school and nursing school. Next, so some of you've touched on skills and certifications. What would you, and you brought up, getting your degree, but switching it to maybe, we talk a lot about soft skills and soft skill development, especially in our career technical education pathways. What would you say are some of those skills maybe students might want to start developing and working on now, whether it be the soft skills, like we said, or actual technical skills that might be important in your field? And so we'll start with Ryan and then work our way back to Amanda.
Okay, well, I'll keep my response short because I'm sure we're going to have lots of great content on this as we go through the panelists. But when I'm interviewing and looking to hire people, there are really two things that I look for. The first, again, is demonstrated interest and experience. So I won't go over that. I kind of just covered that. But the second, I think, really transcends any job, which is effective communication skills. And so regardless of what field you want to get into, if it's a STEM topic or if it's something else, communication is really key, both verbal and in written form. And so I would definitely encourage people, whether you like it or not, to try to improve your ability to communicate effectively and concisely. And so, I think that's one soft skill that maybe I'll use my quick response here to highlight amongst 1,000 other things that I'm sure we'll get into as we go through the panel.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Claire?
I have to agree with Ryan that, like, specifically, like in my position with mine, like, writing is huge. So for grants, it's a lot of reading and writing and research. And so if you're able to really demonstrate that you have those writing skills, that's going to be a huge leg up. But I also think that applies to a lot of positions in this industry. It's not just specifically writing based on, like, for grants, because being able to communicate is super important, like Ryan was saying, whether it's like written or verbal. So I have to say, yeah, communication skills are probably one of those top soft skills that you could work on to prepare.
Awesome. Thank you, Claire. And Lindsey, what would you say some skills, whether it be technical or soft skills, that you would encourage students to kind of work on and develop?
Totally agreed with what's been said so far. We're actually interviewing for a handful of experienced candidates right now, and the differentiators for us are an earnestness, this willingness to learn and grow and try new things, as well as, I'll call it humility, but an ability to to know what you know and know what you don't know, and a willingness to say when you don't know something, particularly in engineering and design. You need to feel willing to say, I don't know what's going on, or I think something might have gone wrong, or I'm worried about a failure here. That sort of thing is really important for us to be successful in our product design. So being able to demonstrate that and feel comfortable in that can be really vulnerable and hard, but it's something that is really, really useful in this work.
Awesome, thank you. And Joe, what would you recommend, whether it be technical skills specifically for your field and or soft skills?
I don't know if this is technical or soft, but I would say, problem solving, right? Ability to think through and come up with a solution to a problem. And this is especially when you're into pilot programs and RDT&E, these things have never been done before. So how do you know how to do it, right? So you got to, problem solve, come up with a plan, execute on that, which is decisiveness. I think I would call that decisiveness, ability to adapt if you need to change directions. And also you might be just a team member, a contributor, or you might be, the team lead, and knowing, when to step up and lead, or when to stand down and let somebody else lead and follow, right? I think this is important for teamwork.
Awesome, thank you, Joe. And Amanda, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that everyone just said about soft skills. I think especially what Lindsay said, something that I've learned in my recent years, just knowing when you need to ask for help on a project and when you could take the time to figure it out on your own. I think that takes some time to figure out, to learn on the job. And that's really important to have in any position. Something more technical, I think that was really valuable for me as an energy engineer was to learn Excel. I use it a lot in my day-to-day work, and just being familiar with it. And there's a lot of different free courses online on Excel, and I didn't know how many functionalities Excel has. So I think on the more technical side, Excel was really useful for me to know before applying for jobs like this one.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely Excel can save you a lot of hours or cause you a lot of hours if you get the wrong cell. You get the wrong cell formulas. I've experienced that. Awesome. So let me I think I know the answer to this question across the board. So we'll kind of maybe add some context, but do you see your industry, or does your industry see a growth in employment over the next 5 to 10 years? I would comfortably say probably yes across the board, but more specifically, I know most of you are not directly in the San Diego region, but if you are familiar, we're specifically in our region, do you think there would be growth, or there is growth? Go ahead and chime in on that. And you could do a simple yes, and just, you don't have to get too elaborate, and we can start with just Amanda.
Yes, I definitely agree. Definitely growth in the field. I don't know too much specifically about San Diego, but I know California as a state is very, very progressive in the energy field. So I know for sure there will be lots of growth in renewable energy, battery storage, and that with that comes energy efficiency, which is what I kind of focus on. So before doing any energy, renewable energy or energy storage, you need energy efficiency. So that just goes along with that. And then California building codes are always getting stricter every few years. So that's really related to the green building industry as well.
And while I have you here, we have a question. Is there an Excel course you recommend online?
Not off the top of my head. I really learned it through internships that I did, just on the job training, but yeah, sorry, not off the top of my head. I would have to look into that, but I know there's, sorry.
There's some good books out there like Learn Excel in 10 minutes, but it's not really 10 minutes. and then YouTube.
Yeah. Awesome. Which leads us to Joe. As far as you're local here in San Diego, how do you see the growth in the energy sector here in the next 5-10 years?
Well, specifically in transportation electrification, right? The federal government intended to invest $2.3 billion in 2023. double that in 2 years and double that again 2 years later. So we're talking about 6.4 and 12.8 over the next 6 years in transportation electrification. The governor of California proposed a $6.1 billion budget for zero emission vehicle related activities. So, and that was for 2022. He's also set goals of, I think 2035, no more ICE vehicles will be sold in California. So huge growth, right?
Yeah, I would assume that's probably going to, with the end of the internal combustion engine here in California, I would think there'd be a lot more maybe independent or smaller electric vehicle companies probably starting to pop up.
You see, not the electric vehicle companies yet, but the supporting functions of electric vehicle charging stations, software developers, maintainers, installers, lots of those small startups. To see them reaching out to talk to me.
Nice. Yeah, we have our transportations. We have 3 transportation pathways, and they've slowly started to incorporate electrical vehicle maintenance in their curriculum. And I sat in on one of their advisor meetings, and they talked about, the skill set for an ASC certified mechanic technician is really, really changing to someone that really has the computer and the technical savvy to work on some of these electric vehicles that is required to work on them. And Lindsey, I know kind of a little different from electric vehicles with Otter, but what would you say is the growth? Because Otter Products does have a San Diego location, right?
It does, yes. We are in San Diego, Fort Collins, and then we have a couple of smaller global offices. Our industry is actually on the decline, though. Cell phone cases it's generally considered a mature industry, particularly in countries like the United States. Everybody that has a phone and wants a case for it already has one. And so we don't expect increases in that industry. And then on top of that, phones are getting stronger and stronger. And so there's not quite that, like when you had your very first iPhone and you wanted the Defender that was this thick on it, that we feel a little more trusting of our devices now than we used to. That said, we as a business are expecting to continue to expand. We have pursued a handful of adjacent industries like screen protection, power, delivery solutions. And we've also taken delivery solutions as an example of where we're kind of going outside of the box, that it really has nothing to do with our historical industry. And it's this more sustainable or reusable delivery options for products like meal delivery kits, medical supplies, that sort of thing.
Nice. An example of a company pivoting to what the market's requiring or changing. And Claire, what would you say? How do you think the electric, specifically in your company, Lion Electric, you see growth, and do you think maybe in relationship to our region in San Diego or Southern California in general?
Yeah, so Lion specifically in California, our presence is mostly as far as where our offices are in Sacramento and Los Angeles right now. But I guess I can speak from kind of personal experience with our growth in California, and also just between the whole US and Canada. In addition, back when I started on the US team, I was employee number 12, and now we have 100, over 100. And it's just crazy to see that growth, because like it's been 3 years and it's just been explosive growth. And then as a whole, the company grew 3 times in 18 months to over 1,000 employees now. So it's like, that gives you an idea of like the explosive growth in this industry. I think the electric vehicle industry is just going to be going crazy as far as like hiring in the next few years, because I'm sure everybody has seen like all of this funding and all of these policies being released recently to encourage all the states to go electric and to promote clean vehicles. So there will need to be people to be hired to fill those positions, whether it's like technicians or salespeople or grant writers, like myself. So I think there's going to be a lot of positions opening up in the next few years, and there's going to be a big demand for it. So if someone's passionate about it, I think this is a really great time to get into it, because it's just going to be explosive growth from here.
Very cool. And Ryan, what would you say for Engie Impact? What would you say the growth is, or specifically in your region?
Yeah, so specific to kind of my role as an electric vehicle consultant, and specifically what that means is we help entities, including Grossmont actually, to navigate the process to procure both electric vehicles, in the case of Grossmont, it's electric buses, as well as the charging infrastructure. And so, this is an industry that, as Claire and others were getting at, is growing exponentially. And I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but I think it's fair to say that you'd be very hard pressed to find in other industry, electric vehicles, that is to say, that has more growth potential over the next 5 to 10 years in any field. We're literally going from a system where, you have some small percentage, but essentially zero electric vehicles that are on the road right now compared to the entire vehicle fleet. And we're anticipating at some point in the future that we will have essentially 100% electric vehicles. And so there's some disagreement on exactly how long we're going to take to get there. But I think we all agree that over the next 10 years is going to be a really critical point where we're really starting to get to the hockey stick point on the exponential curve of adoption. And so, this is just this incredible wealth of business opportunity, I think, that is really, really, remarkable. It's hard to understate how much growth there is, generally speaking, in the electric vehicle industry, at least over the next 5 to 10 years. For somebody who's kind of specific to my role, which is helping to consult and navigate the process, I think there's a lot of need for that now, certainly, and that will continue for probably the next decade or so. But I do anticipate that starting to tail off maybe a little bit faster than it takes us to actually get to a full saturation of electric vehicles, just because we're going to start to figure out what we need to do. And, if I'm successful, I'll run myself out of a job in 10 years, or at least doing specifically what I'm doing right now. There's always 1,000 other things that still need to get done that are related to electric vehicle consulting. But in a nutshell, this is yes, would be the very short answer. This is an industry which is really growing.
Yeah, awesome. And a couple more questions left, and then we're running to our time here. But we've talked a lot about, obviously, electric vehicles, clean energy. But is there something your company specifically is doing, or what is your company specifically doing to take measures to become greener and more sustainable? And you can talk about maybe just some of the things occurring in your offices, more of the day-to-day things that your company's kind of doing, as opposed to like the big global picture, and maybe something that our participants or people listening to here can maybe take some of those ideas and maybe apply them in their homes or in their businesses. Ryan, you want to start with that?
Sure. Yeah, and I suspect we might have some similarities across different people on the panel here. But one of the big things that we've done is been really conscious about how much we're commuting, and of course that has dramatically changed over the last couple of years with COVID. But we were doing some internal research, and we determined that the number one way for us to lower our carbon footprint is just to not commute nearly as much, since we don't actually produce something the same way a big manufacturer would or something. So our carbon footprint is relatively small, since we are a consultant-based entity, at least the part I work with. But in addition to that, we also have, as part of our annual goals that each employee sets, a goal that we have that's specific to how we're going to live more sustainably. That could relate to transportation, or it could relate to using less single-use plastics, or doing whatever else kind of is within your personal domain. And we also have a kind of a wide range of other smaller measures we've taken as a company to make sure that of the products that are entering into our offices that we do still have, even though it's a smaller footprint due to COVID, are sourced from places that are sustainable, and that we're minimizing the amount of waste that we produce and things of that nature.
Awesome. Thank you. Claire, what is something maybe Lion Electric does maybe internally that we know that the electrical bus in itself is reducing a lot of carbon footprint, but something within the company that you guys maybe initiative are doing to maybe help lower that carbon footprint as well, or become more sustainable?
Yeah, I think there's one huge thing actually in particular that really stands out for Lion, which is, so as I said, right now, it's the headquarters is in Quebec, and we are manufacturing vehicles there, and the plant runs off entirely hydroelectric power, which just like blows my mind, because it's like all of those buses are being made with clean energy, which is awesome and amazing, and it's renewable. So that's really cool. And I know we're going to try to do the same kind of stuff when we start manufacturing in the US, which should be happening in the next like 6 months to a year. So that's really exciting. There's definitely a lot of like push for recycling. When you go to the offices, like there's signs everywhere, there's bins everywhere. So we're just trying to like, from like all aspects of the company, just trying to encourage people to like just be a little more mindful of their sustainability. And also same thing with the commuting, right? So about 2 years ago in March of 2020, they basically sent everybody home to work from home when you don't have to come into the office. And that's kind of been the policy ever since, is if you don't need to travel, you might as well just stay home and save the gas and not have to cause all that, pollution. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, awesome. And Lindsey, I know this is right up your alley, all right? As being the company's Sustainability Council founding member, talk to us a little about how some of the things Otter is doing around the office or in general with their manufacturing to lower their carbon footprint.
Yeah. So certainly we're in a very different situation. So what I'd hope to convey to everybody here is that if you have a passion for sustainability, I think anywhere you work where the company just has an open mindset, you can have an impact and you can make a change to how the business is running. And it might be a stepwise change for you to get fully into, say, a sustainable industry, and that's totally acceptable. For sustainability Otter products, it actually started as a grassroots effort where I remember the first thing we decided to do was to put the plastic cups, so you had to like get a stool to reach them, and put the reusable cups in reach in our kitchens. And certainly small steps like that make a difference. And since then, we've now formalized our sustainability committee. We've done a lot of work to reduce waste, which reduce costs, which is also more sustainable. And so we've been able to gain a lot of traction through people that were maybe more apprehensive that being a consumer goods company could align with being more sustainable. And for the past 3 years, we've transitioned our packaging to be 100% paper-based, so it's now fully recyclable. Our cases on the whole have 40% recycled content and up to about 85% recycled content, some which is post-industrial and some which is ocean recycled content that comes from polypropylene that's made from fishing nets. And then we've also taken a lot of initiative with waste reduction, with circularity, managing end of life of our products, that sort of thing, to try to be more intentional with what happens with our products at the end of their life too.
Very cool, very cool. And Joe, I know ISTG, that's their mantra, right? Sustainability. But again, what are some things within maybe your offices, your facilities that maybe people can take with them and then apply to their workplace or even their home?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start out, globally, SDG&E provides 40% of the power that we supply to San Diego comes from renewable energy sources. So that's one thing I wanted to mention globally. Internally, we've stood up an entire environmental and sustainability office that focuses on these things, not just inside of the office, but also outside. Some of the things people mentioned, reusable coffee cups, getting rid of the plastic. We're having an Earth Fair on next Friday, but in terms of transportation electrification, we've installed over 3,500 charging stations to date. 300 of them are for our employees' use. We offer our employees cash incentives to purchase an electric vehicle, and at times we even offer our customers cash incentives if they purchase a vehicle or a credit on their bill. One project, I know Claire and we don't know each other, but I'm working with Lion Electric on the first, it's called Vehicle to Grid project here in California. And what that does is it allows the school buses to be electric, number one, and then number two, absorb energy during the daytime when there is lots of renewable energy being produced from wind and solar, and then allows the school bus to either to discharge back to the grid or to the school to provide energy later in the day when renewable production drops off. So basically extending the usage of that renewable into the off hours.
Wow, that's really cool. I know I behind our district office, we see the new bus terminal that's been constructed there with all the new vehicles. So I'm excited to take a tour there one day. I got to talk to Lindsey about that. And Amanda, what would you say something at Veregy that your company does, maybe specifically to your offices or to your employees, or something that maybe people can take from this?
So let's see. So more internally, we also don't manufacture a product or anything like that. So we did get rid of our big office due to the pandemic, but even now they support working from home for all employees. That really cuts down on everyone's commute. Internally, we have like a green sustainability purchasing policy. So for the I guess for the small office that we still do have, they are very conscious about what they're purchasing and what's being put to use in the office. And then we have internal training. So just some lunch and learn, some quick presentations on various sustainability topics that maybe not everyone would know, like water conservation or like climate action planning. And so we have that internally just to broaden the knowledge of everyone in the company.
Awesome. Again, more grassroots, kind of organic within your facility. Very cool. Well, we're running out of to our end time here. So one last thing I'd like to maybe get from you guys, and we can go any order at this point. I do a lot of presentations to our pathway students and various counseling offices about specifically labor market information and looking for jobs and whatnot. And a lot of our students just don't know certain jobs exist, and based on, they just don't know, right? They don't know these jobs are around, and they sometimes get lost in the specific job titles, like what does that job mean? What do they mean by this particular type of technician? So what would you say in maybe your company alone or within your industry is a job title most people don't know exists, and maybe a little brief of what that job title entails? I don't know if that made any clear sense, but I know sometimes we talk about our manufacturers, we have like a lathe operator technician, and kids are like, what does that mean, right? So I don't know if there's something specifically within energy or the clean energy sector that maybe students or someone looking for a job might not know what that position means. You don't have to go at once. Or maybe a cool job that you maybe thought that maybe people don't within your company that you're like, oh, what do they do?
Oh, go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
Okay. Just, I don't know if it's, I personally didn't know what it meant, but I thought it sounded cool. So we work with a lot of energy managers at like school districts or universities. It's kind of like, I thought kind of like a broad title, but learning more about what they do, it's really interesting. They just manage all the energy projects, but it could range from like solar projects, but also what we do, energy efficiency. So we work directly with them to go into their buildings and help them implement energy efficiency projects, but they also handle some like energy planning work and then also EV projects as well. And we found energy managers at a lot of like the really big universities, but also at like smaller school districts as well.
Awesome. Joe, you were going to jump in there?
Yeah, that's not specifically my industry, but we do interact with this job title or this position. And when you're dealing with any type of electronic device with software and back-end network, there's information security vulnerabilities or IT vulnerabilities. So there's groups of hackers, basically white hat hackers, that we have to send these products to, and they just try to hack it. They try to break it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not just for electric vehicle charging stations and networks, but just electronics in general. I thought that was really cool when we got to work with those guys.
Yeah, we had in our fall webinar, we had is it called pen tester? I think that's the term where, yeah, they call it ethical hacking, right? They're actively trying to see where there's vulnerability within your systems. Really cool. Sounds like some James Bond stuff. Anyone else?
So I guess maybe first thing I would say is that anybody who's looking at a job description and they don't fully understand what the job is in really good company. I think that's probably been true for 99% of the job descriptions that I've looked at in my life, including a few that I've written. So it's very hard to accurately describe what somebody's going to be doing for 40 hours a week in a 1 or 2 page document, especially to a stranger you've never met. So anyway, that's kind of just a funny thought there. But maybe one thing I'll mention, and somebody had mentioned before, I think it was Lindsey, that if you have an interest in sustainability, you can basically enter any market and have a job that is related to sustainability. Well, I would say that related to that, you can also kind of do the same thing with electrification. It's not maybe quite as holistic and broad basing, but any company out there, and I've experienced this as I've gotten to engage with a lot of private and public sector clients, pretty much any company out there that has some vehicles or even has a parking lot or anything that is going to have any kind of element that needs to be retrofitted or modified for this upcoming electric vehicle transition is going to have people that are working on that. And so, you don't have to necessarily work at an electric vehicle consultancy or at a transit agency or something, or a bus manufacturer to necessarily have a job working on electric vehicles. So maybe that's the one thing I'll mention.
That's awesome. Well, I'd like to really thank everybody for taking their time in this afternoon and sharing with our students kind of some of the career options and paths that you guys all have taken, and maybe spark some interest into maybe them pursuing some of these careers, or looking into what some of these careers entail. So again, thank you from me and everybody on the team who helped put this all together. I want to shout out to Chloe, who helped coordinate a lot of you guys getting in touch here, and thank you all for being here. We will, like I said, this session was recorded, and we'll be sharing it out with our various STEM and CTE pathway teachers. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, if I can add on to that really quick, I just want to say this is an incredible group of people. Thank you so much for being here. At the Workforce Partnership, we're going to send this out to our education partners too, so including like the San Diego Unified School District and a few other partners. So this will be seen by a larger group of people as well. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
I also want to just chime in really fast just to say thank you as well. This is part of our CEC grant, and it's the blueprint that started developing for our bus electrification, and has enabled us to outreach to Engie for analytics, and for a lot of other useful research, and as well as San Diego Workforce Partnership, Chloe and Sarah, to help just figure out jobs that are available to different people and in bus electrification and just energy as a whole. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate it.
Everybody have a good night. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.